Hello. Today I'd like to go over the folder structure for organizing your solution for the Sitecore reference solution. Now, I've taken the same approach that Habitat does in the file organization. It's good for standardization. It's also necessary in order to leverage the build scripts or the gulp scripts that Habitat uses to deploy your solution to your local instance. So just opening up File Explorer, you can see I have the solution from Git installed in projects reference. And you can see there's a bunch of folders. There's a lib. That's kind of where you could put any additional DLLs that don't come from NuGet. I'll talk a little more about leveraging the Sitecore NuGet in a little bit. Node modules and packages, these are kind of managed by both NuGet and NPM. Releases is just a folder I normally create. You'll see I follow this pattern for a number of solutions. So like handlebars and client-side analytics, that's where I store my Sitecore packages. They get copied to the release, copied as a release in GitHub. Scripts are still some of the Habitat scripts used for building. There's some PowerShell scripts that help in the deployment of the solution. But the meat of everything you'll be doing is under source. So if we expand out source, you can see we have feature, foundation, project. I have no project modules in here, but for each of these, you'll see we have a folder for the actual module itself. And within that folder, you'll see a code folder and a serialization folder. Serialization is where all your Unicorn serialization and your YAML files go. So you can see in here, that's where those are stored. And that's managed automatically by Unicorn. You don't really have to think about that. But the code, that's kind of basically the root of your project and where everything goes. So you can manually create additional features and foundational modules just by making sure you put things in the right place. But that is kind of error prone and tedious. So one of my recommendations is to leverage an open source Yeoman scaffolding template called Generator Helix. So you can actually just Google for Helix Generator and you'll find this. You'll have to go install Yeoman. You can do an npm install for that, and then you can do an npm install for Generator Helix. Once you do that, it gives you access to a nice little wizard that you could use to quickly add features and foundational modules. So I'll show you how to do that real quick. So let's do a clear. And what we can go is Helix add. And this will introduce a nice little wizard. Where it'll just ask for the name of your project. So we'll just say another sample. I'll delete this later on. I'm not going to check this project in. Would you like to include Unicorn serialization? The answer should be yes. Source code folder name, and enter. Vendor prefix, not necessary. This is nice. You can either do feature, foundation, or module. So let's just do a feature layer. Module group if you have one. Here's an interesting thing. It doesn't give me the option for .NET 4.7.2. There may be a way around that, but it's not a big deal to go change the target later on. So I'll just pick 4.7 for now, and I'll show you how to change the target afterwards. And after that, it's set up. So if we go open up Visual Studio, you can see that it knows it's been updated, so we could reload it. And we should see, I could say do not load the project for now. Doesn't matter. Actually, we'll load it, and then what we'll do is just come into the target framework, and we'll set to 4.7.2. The other thing I like to do on these projects is I always use SF for Sitecore Foundation. It could also be used for Sanfilippo, which is my last name. So that just makes sure namespaces and assembly-wise, there's a prefix there, which I prefer having a prefix. And then you're pretty much good to go. Another thing I tend to do when I do this is I always take the web config and I set the build action to none. The reason I want to do that is to never deploy any standard web configs as part of the solution. You'll see that it automatically populates the serialization config. We'll talk more about that when we cover Unicorn. But one other thing, I mean, if this is a Sitecore related project, what we're going to want to do is add a reference to Sitecore kernel among other Sitecore DLLs. So the other thing I want to cover in this session is under Tools, NuGet Package Manager, you can go to Package Manager settings, and you're going to want to make sure you add a package source for the Sitecore MyGet. You can Google for the URLs, but of course, you're going to want the one that's targeting your version of Sitecore. In my case, it's Sitecore 9.1. And once you have that, you can then go manage your NuGet packages, and you can browse, and you can use Sitecore kernel, right? But of course, we're going to want to set the Sitecore to the package source. And what you're going to want to do is go to Options, and you want to set dependency behavior to ignore, and then you can install it. So that may be the slow way to go find and configure your dependencies or your NuGet packages. An easier way, one that I'd recommend, especially if you're adding a bunch of these at the same time, is you can actually go to the solution. You can manage your NuGet packages for the solution. And what you're going to want to do is go to installed, and we can make sure we have the right package source, and you can look for your Sitecore ones. So I've already installed the kernel, but let's say we needed MVC because it is a feature. You can see it's already installed. The 3.0 version is installed on those. But here, what I might want to do is just check this checkbox and make sure we still have the ignored dependencies, and then we can install that. It's just a little quicker because you're not going to have to spend as much time searching for it. And if you're dealing with multiple versions, it makes it very clear that each of your projects share the same feature. So that's what it takes to set up a new solution. The nice thing about these things, and what I'll do is I'll close this, I'll save this all, and actually what I'll do is I'll remove this. So now it's no longer there. And then going back to the file system, we can see here's another sample. Now that I've removed it from the solution, I can just delete it. And the nice thing about this folder structure and the way the modularity works is you can just delete modules you're not using. So once you can use this as a basis for your solution and just delete sample feature and the sample foundation project and be on your way adding your own modules. So that's it for this session.